George Bruno with the 21 Convention, the European edition. We are in Warsaw, Poland, and I'm having a conversation with Robbie Kramer. Welcome.
Thanks, George. Good to be here.
What did you talk about?
My speech was on executing the perfect first date.
Yes.
Not necessarily only the first date,
Yes.
but basically the progression of dates
Yes.
you would want to go through to start a relationship with a woman, whether that's a casual thing or something more long-term or serious. Yeah. And prior to giving, I give a very detailed step-by-step process. There's so many great speakers at the 21 Convention that talk about the overall theory, amazing ideas, and very thought-provoking conversations. And I wanted to give something very detailed and very applicable that people can go out, immediately implement, and start trying to have some better results in their dating life.
There's a lot of thought leaders out there, but there's not a lot of action leaders. And that's kind of like where you're coming from.
Yeah, that's always what I've tried to do with my business, Inner Confidence. I've always tried to take these concepts that are a little bit tougher to apply and find very step-by-step ways to implement the advice without the stuff from back in the day, all the pickup artist stuff, and the very original kind of trainings were very tactical, and that could lead people the wrong way. So I never want to try to give that one-size-fits-all approach, but I like to give the theory and the scientific approach to break things down, so you can go out and use that.
So a man's not going to go from 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. There are steps, correct? There's progression. Walk us through some of those steps.
Yeah, it's, the thing I see the guys that really screw up on dates, especially when I first started dating, I had a lot of anxiety around where to take the girl, what sort of venue to choose, how many places I should go, how long should the date be? Like, there's all these questions, and it can be overwhelming. So I always recommend that, you can, if you have a plan and you know what you're doing, that gives you a lot of peace of mind, and you can just focus on the connection. And the important part about the plan is remembering that you can essentially end the date anytime on your terms. And whether that's just 30 minutes, you grab a beer and you walk in a park, which is a great start to a first date, or you go to a little pub and you spend 30 minutes there, you save money. It's obviously, not a big investment on her part, not a big investment on your part. You're just having fun, getting to know each other. And the thing that most guys screw up on dates is they forget that the most important thing is the physical connection.
Yes.
So they may end up at a table, eating dinner across from a girl, trying to, create a connection with a mouthful of food. That doesn't work. Or they go, the stereotypical like dinner in a movie, that's the worst date ever.
Yeah.
So I always have a plan in mind to make sure that physical connection moves along. Because if it doesn't, you don't know where you stand, you don't know what's going on. The best way to do that is to keep moving. And so my dates typically, like I said, they start somewhere like a cafe, grab a quick drink, grab a coffee, and then I like to walk and talk. Because walking and talking, it's easy. It's you're not stuck at a table, in a boring setting. It's very
The walking also does release some physical anxiety, because everyone always has a little bit of nervousness when they first meet.
Yeah.
And it kind of melts some of that anxiety away, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there, basically I'll move to a more intimate venue, somewhere like a hookah bar. That's a easy, fun place to go, or just any sort of lounge. Sit on a couch, get to know her a little bit better.
How close should a man sit?
Well, if you're sitting on a couch, you'll be right next to her,
Yeah.
which is ideal. And that way, the physical connection can grow. If she likes you,
Is
she's
he
going to be
facing her?
No, sitting side by side. And also, if
Are
you're
they touching? Are their knees touching?
exactly, knees
Okay.
are touching, arms are grazing. You crack a joke, she's gonna go like that.
Yes.
And touch
Yes.
your arm, right?
Yes.
And as the connection gets deeper and deeper, she's probably going to, stare in your eyes. You'll be giving you all the signals that you want to kiss her. And typically, on most of my dates, that can happen within 30 minutes to an hour. And I'll move in, go for the kiss.
Yeah.
If she likes it, great.
Yes.
If not, I'll try again 15 minutes later.
Yes.
And, if that doesn't work out, then I usually just end the date.
Yeah.
Because if she doesn't like me, and I don't want to give off the impression that, you need to do that within a certain amount of time frame. But you should never be scared to do it. And I think that's a big question for a lot of guys, at least when I first started, is how do you go for that kiss, or how do how do you make that connection happen? And it's more about the proximity. It should be easy to happen.
Make it easy.
So it's really about where you're sitting, like we said, sitting next to her is.
Yeah.
And then from there, once you kind of get the kiss out of the way, that's that imaginary line that's crossed. Like, now we're definitely attracted to each other. There's no question about that. There's no friend zone sort of thing that would happen. And, you're not spending a bunch of money going on more dates where you don't know if she likes you and you feel like maybe she's, because you're just wasting your time and spinning your wheels. So after that, I like to do some sort of a couples activity. And essentially what it makes you feel like you're already a couple, and couples have sex. And that's the fastest way to essentially make the connection where that relationship will go somewhere. Because
it's kind of a catalyst in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps the situation. So taking a gal out for dinner first and having 2 hours of food in your mouth probably is not a good thing to do, right?
Definitely not.
Okay. And I like the idea of moving, because that does release a little bit of anxiety. I like the idea of doing couples things. I like the idea of having physical proximity and making it easy. If a move is going to be made, it can be done easily.
Right. Yeah, that's the big thing is, it should, if it's not easy, it's going to feel like this, you're crossing this giant barrier.
Yeah.
And it'll just make the situation awkward and backfire.
Should a man ever ask a woman, "Can I kiss you?"
Definitely not. Saying anything or telegraphing that you're going to kiss her is typically a no-no.
Yeah.
I mean, if she likes you, she's probably going to kiss you anyways,
right,
even if you screw it up.
Right.
But it will put her in a position where she feels uncomfortable, and that'll ruin it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best way to make that first move is to make
just
the
go
move.
for it. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a little kind of test that you can do. I heard this way back in the day. I don't remember from who, but if you attempt to whisper in her ear and she moves closer, then likely, because she's not really sure where you're going. If you kind of move in, and and you do that after, and she follows suit, that's a good little tell.
Do you how soon on a date do people know? I've talked to women who've said, "Oh, I know within 5 minutes if something's going to happen, or if I'm going to spend more time with him." I like the idea of coffee or a drink because it's a small commitment, and if it goes well, then you go to the lounge or you do something that's going to be where you're going to be for a few hours.
Right.
You don't do the 2-hour dinner commitment thing.
Exactly.
Because that can be the longest 2 hours if there's no chemistry.
Yeah, exactly. And you're never, you're not offering any sort of long, date. You're just like, let's grab a drink. And she doesn't know that you have a plan to keep moving and to go from the park or to a cafe to a lounge, and then from there to like an arcade or somewhere where you can act like a couple and be kind of childish and be like kids together, which really makes you feel like a couple and cements that connection. So you're just, you're continuing to move, you're continuing to get deep in that physical intimacy, and at the end of the time, she'll be like, "Wow, I wasn't expecting this." It's kind of like a cool little adventure you can go on.
How long does it take for a woman to size a man up, and how long does it take for a man to size a woman up? What do you think?
You mean like to
like when
to know
when you first meet and you kind of,
Well, men are more visual, of
Yes.
course. So
Yes.
we'll see a woman and we'll immediately know, like, oh, okay, I'd like to, sleep with her, or
Yes.
you know. Then you kind of find out later, you know, as you spend more time with her, if she's the type of person you'd, you know, want to do more than just sleep with, or maybe, you know, she would turn you off in a way that,
Yes.
you know, something about her personality. You're like, okay, never mind. And for women, I feel, you know, they have a different, you know, at first, obviously, they're concerned about safety, right? So guys will, a lot of the time, I see the mistake happen where guys will take a girl out on the first date, you know, at the end of the date, we'll end in a kiss, and then they'll invite them back to their house for like the next date. And women, you know, they won't feel comfortable going back to a guy's house that early a lot of the time,
Yes.
even if they invite him over for dinner.
Yes.
And so they'll either not respond to the message, or they just won't go, you know, they'll flake. And the guy will think, oh, well, I guess she didn't like me. It's like, no, she just wasn't comfortable, you know, moving that quickly. Some women, it doesn't matter, right? You can totally fine, and you can, you know, kind of run through that. But to answer your question, in terms of sizing up, you know, it takes, in my experience, like within the first 20 or 30 minutes, they'll kind of get the feeling like, okay, he's cool, he's normal, I find him attractive, he hasn't said anything really stupid. And the important thing too on a date is you want to be talking as little as possible. Get her to talk, get her to share, ask her questions about her life, because everyone likes talking about themselves.
Yes.
And it really gives her the impression like, wow, this guy's interested in me, he's a good listener. A huge mistake I see guys make is they just ramble on and they talk about themselves, and she's listening, she might be polite, and you know, you might feel like the date's going well because you're just blabbing away, and then you try to kiss her and she's like, oh no, you know, I don't like to move that fast, and then you text her the next time and crickets.
Yeah.
I see that's probably the biggest mistake I see guys make, is they try to oversell themselves, where in essence you don't want to be selling at all. You want to be just finding out who she is, asking her questions, deciding if she's someone you'd like to have in your life, and the physical connection will kind of take care of itself, as if you give it an opportunity. You know, if you're next to her, if you're walking next to, walking is the best because it's dynamic. You cross the street, you know, you can do the arm out, you can put your hand on the small of her back to go through a door or something like that. And you know, this is all stuff that happens, it should happen naturally.
Yes.
But for a lot of us, like for me, the idea of going on a date in my early 20s, I had like never been on a date until I was maybe 25 or 26.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know what the hell to do.
Yeah.
And especially now with online dating, you know, you meet a girl on Tinder and then you're like, okay, what do I do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it can be, like I said, overwhelming.
Is a first date different? All right, I'm going to describe two scenarios. You meet one gal out and about, club, bar, store, coffee shop, and that's woman A. Woman B, you discover on Tinder, which is what a lot of people do, the swiping apps.
Right.
Are first dates the same with both women?
Good question. Yeah. I wouldn't change anything, really. You know, the first 20, 30 minutes, you meet them somewhere easy to find, you know, park, coffee shop, and you take them through that same progression. The only time I would change the scenario around is if I'm looking to give off the impression that I definitely don't want a girlfriend. And if I'm the type of guy who has a big social circle and I meet a girl and I want to, you know, deepen the connection with her and see where it goes, instead of taking her on a one-on-one date, if she feels comfortable enough to meet me out with my friends, I'll tell her to come out and bring a friend. And I'll just integrate her into my social circle.
Yes.
And that way there's no pressure. We're not even on a date. You know, we're just all hanging out.
Yes.
And we're getting to know each other. She's basically getting to know everything she needs by meeting my friends. Because that will tell you, you know, this is the type of guy, he hangs out with these types of people, this is what he does. And my social circle now, it's just a bunch of people that like to hang out, have a good time. Everyone's having casual sex. It's a very like, I don't know how to describe it. It's kind of like it's strange. It's like I'm back in college, sort of, that sort of vibe, but people are older.
Yeah.
So it's very normal for if I invited a girl out, she would meet me and my friends. She might hook up with my friend. She might hook up with me 2 weeks later. And this is what you see a lot in our dating culture. I described in my speech, I called it the circuit. And the circuit is essentially bachelors, guys, some are divorced, some are younger guys that, have money, like to travel. And there's places on the circuit that everyone goes. They go to Tulum, they go to Mykonos, they go to Ibiza, they go to Fashion Week in LA, New York, Milan, Paris. And it's basically this group of people that travels around and parties. It's Burning Man, it's Cannes Film Festival. And girls will find themselves on the circuit by Instagram. Guys will hit them up, message them a few times, say, hey, look at my yacht, look at this, look at that, come to this party. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, they're getting flown around, essentially living a lifestyle of partying and modeling, even though they're not really working. It can be kind of a toxic environment.
Yes.
And you have to realize that's happening if you're a guy. And most beautiful women that are, if you see on their Instagram that they're traveling and they're partying, that's what they're doing.
Yes.
You can integrate yourself into that environment, but you have to be careful because it can drain your bank account pretty quickly. It can it can drain your mental health. Yeah. I was basically doing that for a good year, and had an amazing time. Met a ton of amazing people, some really amazing guys, fun relationships. But it can be, as I mentioned, it can be a little bit draining. So that exists, and guys don't realize that exists, and they think like, oh, this beautiful girl, whatever, I'll impress her with some trip to here or there, and it's like, no, she's already done that a gazillion times. It's kind of eye-opening. It's kind of like the red pill of advanced partying, I'd like to call it.
Yeah. I've had women say to me, men don't date anymore. They just want to hang out. Comment on that.
Yeah. And women do too. They don't want to date either. I think you hear that more from a woman who might want to settle down, who's looking to transition out of the party phase and start a family. And if you do want to keep things casual, I always tell guys, be very careful to date women who are, kind of at that age where they're looking for something more serious. Because, if you go out with them and have sex and things will progress along, she's going to potentially, be like, all right, what are we doing here? Right? We're hanging out, hooking up, but where's this going? And if you want to avoid those conversations and have the bachelor sort of lifestyle, date young women. Date women under 25, because that really won't come up. She'll be like, oh yeah, I'm just hanging out, partying.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for something more serious, don't expect a 22-year-old to
right
get off the circuit, because
Yeah.
she's going to say yes to that next invitation to Mykonos for sure.
Is there a typical age where women want off of the circuit?
Yeah, I tend to see that right around 27, 28. When they start to feel the biological clock ticking. Yeah.
When is it appropriate to take yourself off of a dating site if you're seeing somebody? Because if you meet somebody on a site, they're going back regularly to see if you're still on there, still looking.
Right.
Do both people have that talk and say, okay, let's both take ourselves off of the site? It's a conversation that has to happen.
Yeah.
It's the elephant in the room at one point or another.
Yeah, the trick there is if you have any anxiety about taking yourself off, then you probably have anxiety about creating something more serious. And if that's happening, that's a conversation that you should be having earlier, or not even a conversation you should be having, but a way that you're showing rather than telling, right? If you don't want a relationship and you don't want to have, or if you don't want a monogamous relationship and you don't want to have the conversation about, I saw that you were active on, your seeking arrangement site, or I saw you're active on Tinder, and you don't want that drama, then you can, it's a little bit tough to describe, but you want to give off the vibe that you're just having fun, you're playing around, you're not seeing her more than once a week. Because if you're seeing a girl more than once a week, it's pretty obvious that she's going to expect you to be her boyfriend. I heard back in the day a guy say, if you're seeing a girl more than once a week, you're in love. And guys they'll meet a girl, they'll have great sex, they'll want to keep having sex, but they'll want to keep it casual. They might not have other partners, so they'll make the mistake of seeing her a couple times a week because they're horny. And then a month later, the girl's like, where's this going? He's like, oh, no, I don't know. I'm kind of focused on work right now. I just want to keep things casual. And she's like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right? So they give off that signal because they don't have other women, and they're not actively going out and pursuing that. It's basically out of laziness. So the important thing is to not be lazy. If you want to be single and if you want to date multiple women, then you have to have the what's the word? Basically, you have to make sure that you're not seeing them too often because you're just going to give off that vibe.
Yeah. Where can people find out more about what you do and what your philosophy is?
Yeah.
Talk to them.
So if you go to innerconfidence.com, you can find everything I have. I've got a bunch of different ebooks on the site that are free. I have a podcast called the Leverage Podcast, which I release episodes a couple times per week. That's what I recommend that everyone should go check out because there's great content, great interviews on there. I think we're on our 110th episode at this time. So check out the Leverage Podcast, go to innerconfidence.com, and you can contact me straight from there.
Robbie Kramer from innerconfidence.com. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, George.